Hello, and welcome to the Applicant Podcast. I'm Rebecca Tripp, and today I have Samantha F. joining me. So Samantha, thank you so much for joining today.
Very excited to be here, Rebecca. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Thank you. So why don't we start off with you quickly introducing yourself and telling us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Absolutely. So I'm a very interesting paralegal, and I'll tell you why, because I'm not just a paralegal. So I'm a paralegal, I'm a TV show host, I'm an author, teacher, and a law school student. So I have a wide array of things that I do, as well as coaching other legal professionals. So I'm just a very interesting person that I'm very excited to talk about all of these things here today.
Well, I'm excited to jump in with this with you because I do think that you have a very interesting career educational background. So why don't we start with that? You do have a very interesting educational journey that you have taken and are currently still on.
Yes.
So what are the previous and current programs that you've pursued, and how did you land on the paralegal profession?
Okay, so it's very interesting. I actually didn't come out of high school wanting to be in law. I had this idea that I wanted to be more so like a human resources professional. So I went down that path. I took human resources, some business, marketing, and then I kind of shifted into travel and tourism. How, I don't know. It was just more of an interest. It was about interest. And then I don't know. My mom was talking to me. My mom is a professor, and she said to me, Samantha, you have the mind for law. Like you want to help people, and yes, you are great at human resources, but you're really a great advocate. So it might be worthwhile for you to investigate getting into law. So my mother's encouragement got me to take the program, and it also happened that I had things happen to me in my life that kind of pushed me in that direction from a legal standpoint, such as being discriminated against. I was also in the construction industry at one point in my life, in property management, and I wanted to work in the trades. And at that time, females really weren't accepted into some trades.
Yeah.
I applied for a job and was declined for being female. So that kind of gave me the interest in law and human rights specifically. So that's where I am at with that. So yes, I have tons of college to back me. And now, 11 years later, I'm in university to become a lawyer.
Amazing. And how is that going?
Oh, it's great. It's hard. I love it. I'm so, you know what it is? I have so much passion. I hear the scary stories that people say, oh, it's so hard, or good luck, or, the negative mindset. But for me, I actually don't have that. I love it. Like I live and breathe the law. So for me, it's just a case. It's exciting to me, and I love to see the ins and outs. So it's just like every day for me.
Yeah, it's amazing once you really start to enjoy the work that you're doing. It doesn't really become a challenge. It's challenging in the sense that you're learning and you're growing, but it's not a painful process. It's an enjoyable process.
No, it's not at all. Not at all. It's so much fun. And I love it. And I talk to others that are not in it, and they're like, that's really interesting. I didn't know that. So yeah, it's a fun experience. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. So moving forward, you've had quite an interesting career. You kind of touched on it a bit, but can you walk us through the various positions and responsibilities that you've had?
Yeah. So my career is really, because of my background in the various areas that I was in, human resources and construction and property management and real estate, like there's just so many things I've done. And when I know that when we became regulated, I had to get my license. There really wasn't a choice. My mom influenced it, but because of the other things I was doing, I just had to get it. I had to have it. So when I got my license, I already knew in school that I wanted to be a sole practitioner. There wasn't a doubt about it. I didn't want to work for anybody else. I always had that entrepreneurial, and I wanted to be my own boss. So I did that right when I came out of school. I took the leap of faith, opened up my own practice, and practiced for many, many years on my own. It turned into, I got headhunted into a law firm where I still, parallel to my business, I worked at this law firm, worked there for about 2 years, and said to myself, this is just not for me, and came back into my business full time. I'm very, very lucky now. Like, I went from myself to now 12 other people. And I'm just growing a firm. It's just been the same all this time, but really, I enjoy being an entrepreneur. There's so many positive things about it. And you really can use all the different skill sets you gain in your past life to apply that to your career, as a paralegal or a lawyer.
Yeah.
So that's why I like it. But yeah, it's really just been my own practice, law firm for a temporary period of time, and then back into my own practice. And in relation to my role, I've been the managing partner of my firm. So I oversee what everybody does. I'm involved in every single case. And I'm mentoring new students. I'm mentoring junior paralegals, as well as doing business development and marketing. So I have a lot that I do. And I love it. Like, I'll be honest, people will tell you, like, if Samantha is passionate about her firm and the growth of her firm and helping students, like, to me, I just absolutely love that, because students don't know where to go. You know, they come out and they're like, what do I do now? So I want to make sure that students get that opportunity, if they want to settle in my firm, to grow with my firm as well. So yeah.
And for our listeners that don't fully understand the paralegal profession, I just want to touch on something quickly. So as a paralegal, you can have your own firm. And I don't think a lot of people know that. A lot of people see a paralegal as someone that helps a lawyer, but licensed paralegals in Ontario, we can provide legal services. We can have our own paralegal firms and employ other individuals that provide legal services. So I just wanted to clarify that for people that haven't listened to a podcast like this before, really tapped into the paralegal profession. In Ontario, it's a very unique jurisdiction. And I love to hear that you are not only doing everything that you can as a paralegal, running your own firm, but you also have a team, which is incredible.
Yes, yes. You know, it's a trend. I should say, Rebecca, that's the trend that's happening now. When I started, it was, my professors used to say to me, everybody who's in this class, like, you need to understand you're going to be a sole practitioner. But as time has gone on over the last 11 years, I'm noticing that paralegals are more so teaming up and having that almost like law firm feel to them. And you're seeing more and more paralegal firms that are starting to develop at this stage.
Which I think is great. It's a great opportunity for the public to get access to justice. You don't only have the option of hiring a lawyer, you can hire a paralegal. So I think that's great. So you're also a teacher, as you said. So kind of on the other side of this, kind of looking at it from the educational side of things, and being a teacher, you know, what are some of the common struggles that you see with your students?
Yeah, so I think that students, they lack confidence. And I mean, I don't blame them. I lacked confidence as a student myself, even having experience with residential tenancies. I lacked it myself. I think that it comes down to being open to ask questions and not being afraid. So I always say to my students, you know, even if you think it's silly, there's others that are thinking it. Just ask it, even if you think it's silly, because it probably is not. The other struggles that I see are being able to be organized in your studies. So there's so much you have to learn. You're learning procedures, you're learning statutes, regulations, maybe practice directions. You're looking at the common law. There is a lot to learn. And depending on the program that you're in, it's in a short period of time. Like for the accelerated program, it's very short. So you really have to be organized, and you really do have to set the time, set your day. So plan the time so that you read, you review, you go over questions, and then you make sure you ask questions, because all the instructors and professors, they are open from what I've seen, answer questions, but you have to be willing to step forward and ask. They can only pull so much out of you. The other thing that I see is not waiting until the end of a program to start to network with other professionals.
Yeah.
So when you wait to the end, you're kind of, you're not too late, but you didn't set that groundwork for yourself.
Yeah.
So when I was a student, I took a 3-year part-time program at Seneca College. I can tell you from day one, I was out there trying to find out, where do I go? What organization do I join? Who do I talk to? And I was networking as a student. As a student, at one point, I was volunteering at 2 different firms while I was going to night school and working full time. So I can say that, yes, it's hard, but you should do it no matter what, because you don't want to wait to the end where now you have to open up shop and try to figure it out when others can help you during the school year.
Yeah.
So those are the things that I see, is that people are just waiting to be kind of handed information, or you have to go out and seek that information, and don't be afraid, right? Ask people. The worst they can say is no. And even if they say no, it might just be no right now, not no forever. So ask, don't be afraid, be fearless, and the confidence will come. I promise you, it will come. Maybe not then, but it will come. I promise you.
Yeah. I think all those tips and those struggles really transfer over to individuals in their careers as well,
Yes.
right? Like, make sure
Absolutely.
you block time and schedule your time accordingly. Have confidence when you talk to people and in your ability, right? Especially as a new graduate. So many people are going to tell you you're not competent, you're not ready, you're a new grad. And I think part of it is that you have to be willing to learn, be willing to be that newbie, understand your weaknesses, and move forward with it. And networking is so important for so many reasons. So yeah, I think that really does transfer over from school right into your career.
Yeah, and I just want to add, I mean, being in school is one thing, but when you get into practice, it's not the same. It's completely different. It's so fast paced that it's almost intimidating. And I want students to understand that, it's okay to make mistakes during school. It's okay to even make mistakes on placement, but you have to communicate. If you don't communicate and you just sit there because you don't understand something and you just, okay, I'll just fly through the placement with the one task I was given, it doesn't work. It just shows that you won't ask questions. I think people need to understand that you're going to get criticism, and the criticism might, it's supposed to help you, but it might sound like it's hurtful. And I remember that happening to me. One of the paralegals I worked with gave me criticism, and I thought, oh my gosh, it's me. It's not you. You're starting out. You're at the beginning of the career, but that doesn't mean you're new to life. So what I'm trying to say is accept constructive criticism. Don't take it personally, learn something from it and implement what you've learned, right? And again, on placement, that's the time to ask questions and make mistakes. And don't just sit there if you don't know something. Ask. Don't be afraid to ask.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, that really does transfer over to once you're in your career, right? Even if you're a senior, 20 years into your career, you're still going to make mistakes.
Absolutely.
You're still going to get constructive criticism from time to time. And I think it is really important to keep the communication open, make sure you are asking questions if you don't understand something. And I mean, you said it in a great way, which is like, don't take it personally. Like, it's not a determination of your worth as a human being. It's
so hard.
Yeah.
It's so hard. Like, it's easy for me to say it to you and say it to your viewers, but this is not an easy thing. I remember having a judge yell at me as a student. It's not easy to take when you're new, because you expect things to be a certain way that you build in your mind, and it's just not reality, unfortunately. So we have to learn to be able to adapt to any situation. And for now, at the beginning, as we're learning, you have to kind of put up that shield, but just expect that things are going to come that you're not going to want to hear, but it's okay, because you're going to learn from it. That's it. So easier said than done, I know, but at least you're hearing it here, so hopefully that helps.
Yeah, absolutely. So like you said, you have your own paralegal firm, and I'm wondering what advice you have for those wanting to become a licensed paralegal and start their own business.
So before you become a licensed paralegal, first of all, know what a paralegal is. And I think you talked about that, but I'll be honest, there's still people that are students that actually don't know what we do.
Yeah.
There are 5 major areas of law that we're taught. We're not taught all of these other areas. So tribunals, for example, there's over 800 boards, tribunals, and commissions in Ontario that we can practice in, but you're not taught all of them. And they're not even all listed on like Canley or other places. You have to dig down and find them. Some of them are more like tribunals where you advocate in writing, right? There isn't actually a process in person or virtual where you speak. It's all in writing. So there's a lot of them like that. So I would say before you get into this, know what we do, and then find some areas, niche areas. Like I knew a gentleman who was a nurse, or sorry, not a nurse. He was an EMS, yeah. So a nurse and an emergency service, drove ambulance. I said, why don't you go and represent nurses, medical professionals? You know, you have the background. So I would say try to connect something from your past to what you would do as a licensee, because that's a niche market. Investigate, get to know it, talk to all the different colleges. They all do things a little bit differently, even though the curriculum is about the same. And decide, you know, do you want to go to law school maybe after? Do you want an accelerated program? They're very different. They're very different in nature, and you just have to decide what you can handle as well.
Yeah.
And if you're going to run your own business, I would consider also taking courses if you've never done it before. Getting a business coach, getting together with, there's business centers. There is hubs all over Ontario that will help you to get grants for your business, teach you how to write a business plan, marketing plan, etc. But you need to get these skills into your toolbox. If you don't have them, you're coming into a business where you're like, okay, I have a license now, what do I do? And I think that's why some licensees are scared, because they have no business experience. So I would suggest, you know, first of all, figure out what you want to do, get to know what we do, figure out your programming, and then make sure you have the skills. Now, if you don't have the skills, that's okay too. Find people with those skills. So I'll tell you, I'm very lucky. 2 of my business partners are very opposite of me, have different skill sets to me. And I'm very happy, because that means I don't have to do everything. Right? As a sole practitioner, you're wearing every hat. I'm not saying that it's not rewarding, but it's not easy. So you have to understand what you're getting yourself into. And even when you're by yourself, you're still going to have people in your circle to help you, right? To bounce ideas off. So you have to decide, how do I want to do this? What do I want to do? What do I want it to look like 5-10 years down the road, right? So there's a lot more I can go into. I think that question in itself could be a whole podcast.
Yeah, and I think you said it really well to kind of summarize, is that, you know, we all have a toolbox and you have to work on it. You have to add to it. Everyone has a different one, and be mindful of that, I think, is a really important lesson that you learn over time. And you have to keep on adding to it. You know, there's, in the legal industry, we're constantly learning. Things are changing all the time. We just have to adapt and roll with it. And I think the toolbox analogy is a great way to summarize that, for sure.
Thank
So
you.
you've worked in the legal industry for years now. If you could change anything in the legal industry with just a wave of the wand, what would you want to change?
I don't want to change anything. I want there to be more awareness around paralegals. And I that's one thing I've been trying to do. For the past 6 years, I created a not-for-profit called the York Region Paralegal Network. So there are multiple paralegal associations, but ours is actually a network of paralegals that provides free public legal education and legal clinics to the public in various areas. And I just would like to see more of that all over Ontario.
Yeah.
So that's the one thing I would change, is to let people know what we can actually do. I think people kind of know what paralegals do, but I get calls all the time where they're like, oh, you could do that? I didn't know. And I think it's just about the continued education and getting in with different groups to continually promote this profession. Also lawyers. There's some lawyers that still don't know what we do.
Yeah.
So that connection with lawyers is very important for me. I want them to know how we can help them and that we're not a competition to them, but instead we can actually help their businesses grow. I've been very lucky. We have a lawyer in our chambers that we work very closely with, and she's realized, paralegals are amazing. Like they can help me with all my admin, yes, under supervision, but even files that are within their scope, I can give it to them and they can refer to me. So there's a lot of advantages to it. I just wish there was more promotion of our profession and more giving back through legal clinics, because can't get legal aid, you can't afford a licensee, but there's that gap in between where we really can make a massive difference.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I, again, to maybe take a step back for individuals
Sure.
that don't know the paralegal scope of practice, I'll quickly run through it. So
Sure.
we can do anything in a tribunal, a board, or a committee, representing clients at a hearing at any one of those. We can represent clients with provincial offenses. So example, the Highway Traffic Act. We could represent clients in small claims, which is $35,000 or under. And we can also represent clients when it comes to summary convictions, which is 6 months or less in jail. I think I hit every element there.
Yes, you did. You hit them very generally. And again, I
Yes.
think people again need to understand there's like over 800 tribunals. So
Yes.
there is a tribunal for almost everything. So there's a lot we can do. Municipal assessments, MPAC, appeals, human rights, land tribunal, environmental tribunal. There's so much. Like I'm not even kidding you when I say that you really could go to a paralegal and pretty much get your everyday needs met. When you're going to a lawyer, these are things more like estate law, tax law, family law, criminal over the 6 months and over the $5,000 fine, bigger matters. But yeah, paralegals offer a wide range of skills and really can help the public with their everyday matters.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So last question. I can't believe we're already here. What one piece of advice would you give your 18-year-old self if she was standing in front of you right now?
The advice would be to doubt my doubts. To doubt my doubts. My story is really interesting, and I didn't tell it here today, but there are other events and other podcasts and news articles that I've been in where I've told my past. I told my story about being bullied as a child. And I think what really scared me about coming into the profession is just I was doubting everything that I did. I didn't know if I was good enough to do it. I didn't know if I could succeed at it. I was my own worst enemy and stood in my way. So I got into the profession not at that age, but I wish that I started sooner. But at that age, again, doubting my doubts and not letting the past hold me hostage to achieving my goals and dreams. I think that's the biggest thing. And I hear that from others too. It seems to be a common thing that happens is, thinking that something that happened to you is your fault. And it's not necessarily the truth. I think that things will happen to us and we need to be willing to analyze them and understand that it's not always our fault. Yeah, we might have contributed, but how can we fix things? How can we solve problems, and how can we learn from that so that we can use that energy to propel us forward? So my advice, I know I just went on, but really it is doubting your doubts. Don't be afraid to take a leap and stop doubting everything that I did. And at that point I was doing that. I really, really was.
And I think that's relatable for a lot of 18-year-olds, right? You're fresh out of high school. You finally have the freedom to do whatever you want. And it is very challenging to say, you know what, like I am confident in my decision and I am going to do this. And I think doubting your doubts is an excellent piece of advice for any 18-year-old listening to this today, for sure.
And I just want to add,
yeah.
Personal development and mindset. It's something that I believe in so much. And I don't know if an 18-year-old would know this. I mean, I try to teach my nieces and nephews and my children about personal development because I think it can be used at any age. And I think starting early, or if you haven't done it, trying to get yourself involved. Like it's hard to really tell an 18-year-old, hey, you should kind of think about your mindset, because
Yeah.
that's just the stage in your life where things are changing so rapidly. From 15 on, things are changing, and you kind of don't know if you're coming or going sometimes, and you are going to feel odd. But if you can get yourself to a place where you start to learn about your mindset and understand how much control your mind really has,
Yeah.
and what you're feeding your mind, you really can make a difference within yourself. And I know it sounds odd. I know, like, I didn't believe it myself. I was like, oh, what's personal development? It's like some silly thing that everybody's just selling a self-help book. But
Yeah.
I'm telling you, later in my life, when I learned about it, I realized that if I would have, really sat with myself and understood why I was thinking the way that I was as more of a teenager, I probably wouldn't have blocked myself from doing a lot of other things that I wanted to do. And it's hard to say it. I mean, it's hard. It depends on the situation that you're in as at that age. But I would recommend anybody around, teenage, in their teenage years, to look into that. Like, what does that mean? Listen to people that are motivational.
Yeah.
I listen to people like John Shin or Tony Robbins. There's various people out there, and just get excited about it. Some of them are really, really interesting and amazing, and really can feed your soul and feed your mind.
Yeah. And it is hard to discuss that unless you've experienced it. And I too think that, when I looked at that maybe even a couple of years ago, I'd be like, oh, it's just my thoughts, like whatever, you push them to the side. But I do think there is a lot of weight that comes with negative thoughts, and when you're around negative people, and it does impact the way you see yourself and the way you communicate with other people. And it really does impact your daily life. And it is something to be very mindful of. And I agree. I think at 18, there is so many changes going on to talk about, being mindful of your personal development, and who you're surrounding yourself with, and your mental health. It's hard to wrap your head all around it. And I do think there is an element of learning and failing and seeing what works and what doesn't. But I do think it is very important, especially in the legal industry, because we are those people that individuals come to when they have a problem, and that can come with a lot of weight and a lot of negativity. And I think a lot of paralegals and lawyers struggle with that. And so I agree. I think it is very important to be mindful of personal development and all those things, and just trying to stay positive in the legal industry, because it is a very intense career to take on, for sure.
Something you said stood out, and I hope you don't mind if I just jump in here.
Yeah.
Client problems. I mean, we're problem solvers, right? That's our job. You mentioned that. And you're right. It can take a toll on you. It really, really can. Like, we have our own personal, private problems, and then we're taking on everyone else's problems. And you really have to separate yourself. Like, I do a lot of human rights, and with human rights, I'm that person where people will lean on me and they will just vent it out, right? It's almost like I'm a litigator, but I'm trying to also make my client feel comfortable. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a coach in that sense, but they're going to tell you these things. And some things are you may not sit with you very well, but you have to learn to separate yourself. And it's something that takes a lot of time to do. But if you start taking on everyone else's problems, and let it get to you, you're not going to be able to be the best version of yourself and advocate for those clients. So you really do have to find techniques to do that. For me, when my business day is over, I am not even thinking about any of my cases. I'm walking away. I'm going to exercise and playing with my kids, studying something else that's not related to a file. And I'll say this, it's interesting because when I first started, I would get nightmares about my files. I would worry, like a client would tell me something and I'd be like, oh my God, I'm so worried about this person. And it was like eating at me. So you have to be able to separate it. I will say the Law Society offers various programs, member assistance programs where you can call, it's confidential. You can get, you can talk to anybody at any time, whether it's in person or over the phone. There's mentors, there's various resources you can use from the Law Society, and also with outside groups to make sure that you are okay. Because if you're not okay, like I said, how can you possibly advocate for your client? So it's very important. It's a huge issue that people are afraid to talk about. You know,
Yeah.
mental health, you may not realize you're being affected, but over time, if you don't know this in the beginning, it will start to eat at you and it will bog you down to the point where it affects your work. So yes, I would say to anybody that's new, or even those that are more seasoned, you know, if you're sensing something, reach out to someone. Don't be silent. Like others are going through this too. It's a very important issue that it seems like, okay, well, we're professionals. So if we show that we are weak, then people are going to look at us, and we're not weak. We're
Yeah.
not weak. We are very strong people. It's not easy to be in this business, but it is a very amazing business to be in.
Yeah.
So I would just caution, take care of yourselves and learn how to separate your business from your personal.
Yes. And thank you for mentioning MAP, the Members
Yes.
Assistance Program. I'll leave the link in the show notes for anyone that wants to learn more about that. It is a wonderful resource that the Law Society of Ontario offers us. And I don't think enough people take advantage of it. And thank you for bringing it up in this episode, because I do think it's a very valuable resource that we have just at our fingertips for free.
Yes, that and can, right? The Coach and Advisory Network is another one. So again, like the more that we tell people about this, the more that the people will use it. Again, underutilized, right? It's there for you as a member of the Law Society. Students, I believe students could also use MAP, is my understanding.
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's very important that you take advantage, know that it's confidential, right? You're not going to call somebody from MAP and then everyone finds out that you called them. It's confidential. So take advantage.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Samantha, for taking the time to sit down with me today and have this conversation.
Absolutely.
I really enjoy watching, you know, what you're doing and seeing where you're going. Good luck with law school. I know that's not an easy task, but good luck. And thank you again for taking the time to sit down with me. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, and thank you to everybody who's listening and watching.